Welcome to Murder and Everything Else. My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl. Joy and I are two very old friends who love to talk about murder and everything else. Although I love to talk about murder, she doesn't. She likes to talk about everything else, and I make her.
She does. She loves to talk about murder.
And you don't. One of Joy's favorite sayings is, "You can't make me." And in this case, I can. So this is coming out on January 26th, and I pray to the heavens above and the powers that be that the fires in Southern California have been 100% contained. As we record this, they are in for rain next week, which is good for the fire, but it's going to be there's going to be risks of mudslides, which that is just a whole nother natural disaster. So I am praying for the people of Los Angeles, because my heart is with California and my friends there and family. So I just got to talk about this, Joy. You know that I am a peace-loving person, right? For the most part. Stop being so quiet.
I'm going to say sometimes not.
Well, for the most part, right? And I really don't care what people are doing as long as they're not murdering anyone, although that does add material to our podcast. No, really, honestly, I don't care what you're into. I don't care how you identify. And I'm going to do my best to use all the correct terms. And if I don't, I apologize in advance. And this apology is for in perpetuity, as they say, because I don't know if I'll ever get it together as far as that. Just call me old. But it has nothing to do with me disrespecting anyone. And in that vein, I think we have gone cuckoo. Our world has been turned upside down. I understand a lot of things need to change for equality and all of that. But I feel like sometimes, we go overboard, and then we got to reel it back a little bit and then find a happy medium. You know what I mean? I feel like the world is topsy-turvy right now. And now I have things to say about fire department in Los Angeles. So as Los Angeles battles its worst fires in history as of this recording, the fire department's highly paid diversity head is facing an inferno of backlash after a bizarre comment surfaced in which she appears to defend DEI hiring by blaming victims. In a video defending the department's DEI hiring practices, Deputy Chief Christine Larson, who heads the Equity and Human Resources Bureau, addressed accusations that female fighters aren't strong enough to carry a man out of a burning building. Her response: "He got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire."
Well, that just seems really insensitive. If you're 5'1" and you weigh 100 pounds, you're going to have a hard time dragging a 350-pound man out of a burning building. That just seems very factual, but maybe she was one of the things that I will say about this is nobody can make a gaffe anymore. Everybody is recording. Everyone has a phone. You're never allowed to make
What's a gaffe?
A gaffe is when you say something that maybe was taken out of context, or something, just you're flippant about something, and then you're not allowed to go back because everyone holds you to it. And so I just feel like, everybody gets skewered in the, court of public.
You know what, Joy? I am someone that gives people the benefit of the doubt. I think that I can say that honestly about myself, and the people that know me can say that, right? Mm-hmm. I do give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
This was just the wrong thing to say. There's a right and there's a wrong. I don't want to beat around the bush about this, but saying to the world, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire is just insane. I will send you the video where she is defending her stance on being questioned about women being strong enough to have that position. And she says, and she's been asked, she's like, for the people who ask, am I strong enough to carry a man out of a burning building? She's on video saying it out of her mouth. Well, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. And Miss Christy Larson, I'd like to speak to you directly. Christine Larson, excuse me. I'm already calling her a nickname, Christy. Christine Larson, if I was at work and the fire broke out in my neighborhood and I'm an hour away, which in Los Angeles with the traffic could be 4 miles away, but I'm an hour away. And I hear that there's this fire raging through my street. And my grandfather that has dementia is stuck in the house. And I hear you say something like this, I'm already upset. And I didn't have, no one I know was affected by the fire, but that doesn't mean I don't care about the people I don't know. It's insensitive. I understand that you're feeling defensive. And so you're going to say something about that, but it's just wrong. There's a wrong and a right, and it's just wrong. And I hope by the time that this episode is uploaded, I really hope that she puts out an apology. Although, in my opinion, that's just damage control. You really said how you feel, and we have just got to get a handle on this whole men and women and this and that. I respect your sexual preferences, how you identify, but let's be real. There are some things that men are better fit for. They're just better fit for, just as there are some things women are better fit for if they qualify.
Wait, but can I just jump in really quickly? It's not sexual preference, it's sexual identity. Because when you say sexual preference, you're basically saying that people prefer to be like LGBTQ plus, and I believe that that's not a preference. That's actually how they're born. Like, okay, I mean, if you're born, corrected. You know what I mean? So yeah, I just want to like
I issued an apology because I told you I am so lame when it comes to all of this stuff. But you know me, Joy, I don't mean any of this offensively. It's just that Joy has to teach me all this stuff because it's just too much for my little pea brain to keep up on.
You don't have a pea brain, but I just want to say that DEI stands what it stands for. It's a philosophy and culture that aims to create a just and inclusive society by acknowledging and supporting people from a variety of backgrounds. That's all it is.
What did you say? Sexual what? Identification?
No, you use the phrase sexual preference, and it's actually sexual identity, because sexual preference is like an outdated term, which led people, which stemmed from people saying that people, for example, if they were lesbian or gay, that they prefer that instead of being born that way. But I just want to acknowledge, no, it's okay. I just want to say all DEI is just, it's the acknowledgement and supporting of people from a variety of backgrounds. And I think what's happened is how ultra charged everything is nowadays, and the way that certain people have weaponized ideas and ideologies. And for example, it's a philosophy and culture. That's all it is. They've weaponized it so that now all of a sudden DEI is considered something that's derogatory and it's ridiculous. And, we had somebody recently who used the term DEI hire to refer to Kamala Harris and said that the only reason she was the vice president was because she was a DEI hire. And that's very dismissive. She's a super, super intelligent attorney. She's got a very strong political background. She's top of her class from Howard, top of her class from law school. I mean, she's obviously not a DEI hire. She'd just stumble in and someone give her a chance because she's a person of color. So I think what we have to do is, yeah, obviously a 5 foot, 100-pound woman is going to struggle to drag a 350-pound man out. But I remember when women in combat in the 90s, they were arguing that like women couldn't be in combat in active military zones because of their periods. And
Okay.
and so I will say that, hey, if a woman is physically fit and she wants to be a firefighter and she understands the risks and how hard it is, and she wants to be active duty and she understands how hard that is, you know, and she wants to have her period while she is, you know, like lugging around 100 pounds of, you know, because there are things you can do, you know, to suspend, you know, or make your period shorter, like birth control, etc. But if she wants to go through what it takes for the training, because like, boy, I gotta tell you, I know some women who are Marines who could kick, like, you know, like wipe the floor with a man.
Yeah, and so, I am not excluding or making a blanket statement. I'm simply saying, if there is a test to be an FBI agent, whether it's intellectual or physical, same for a fireman or a police officer, whatever it may be, whatever they have determined is required for that job. I don't believe that there should be a female test for the same position. You can either do it or not. And if you're a woman that can do it, awesome, you get the job. My whole thing with her comment has nothing to do with, I understand she was on the hot seat, and that's why I'm hoping by the time this thing drops, she has issued a sincere apology, not just rhetoric apology. Yeah. Because I know she was on the hot seat, and that's what you're talking about, context and whatnot. Yeah. But whether you're qualified for the job or not does not warrant a response of, he got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of the fire. Yeah. That, I don't care if you are more qualified than the guy standing right next to you. That response is freaking unacceptable. And she is one of the 3 women that are running the LA Fire Department. And in another sad note, I saw that some people who were stuck at work, who could not go home, who their homes were, you know, either surrounded by fires, they could not get back, could not get their pets. And they're trying to get back to their house, but they're not being let in because of X, Y, and Z. And so they are trying to devise processes where they can get their pets fed, get medication. Callie has medical needs. If she was stuck in my apartment for 2 weeks without me, she'd probably be dead. It's just so tragic. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
So tragic. It reminds me of Hurricane Katrina. You know, so many animals were left behind, and they had to round up animals, you know, and adopt them out because people, you know, were displaced for years. People had to leave that area for good because, you know, they couldn't sit around and wait for the rebuilding. I'm reminded.
And then LA is supposed to host the next Olympics.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Anyway,
well,
sorry.
It looks like something from a movie. It's crazy.
I know. It's so sad.
Also, anyway, guys, Cheryl and I are both from California, so this is very personal. Like, we love this state.
I will always love California.
I will too, but you know, my home is here now. Anyway, rushing on to updates. Oh boy, Cheryl really packed a punch there in our little opening. This is a personal message to Elena, who made a comment about our segue and our updates and our shout outs. On our last episode, Am I the Asshole? Take 2. I just want to let you know, Elena, that we did spend 20 minutes of chit chat and bullshit. And
Joy took out 17 minutes of that 20 minutes.
And then we got to the meat and potatoes, but at least we got to the meat and potatoes. So, Elena, if you have not listened to Am I the Asshole? Take 2, you're definitely going to want to skip past all the bullshit and chit chat and get to around 20-minute mark and then hit play. Okay? That's all I have to say about that. Cheryl, you got any updates?
Yeah, so Lori Vallow Daybell, remember we covered the Doomsday
I
Murders?
feel like one of those middle names should be Ding Dong.
Right? I know. Well, we did an episode and she was found guilty in Idaho for the murders of her 2 children, Joshua J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan, right? And she was
Yep.
also found guilty of her role in the death of Tammy Daybell, which was Chad Daybell's wife. She is currently representing herself, which is just I don't even want to watch it, but it would be entertaining. She is representing herself right now in Arizona, of all places, because she is accused of conspiring in the fatal shooting of her 4th husband and the attempted murder of her niece's ex-husband. So that's the update. I am not going to do a story on it. I just want you all to know I'm done with her.
All right. And guys, if you belong to a religion that you believe is telling you to kill people, I'm just here to tell you that's probably not a good group. You should probably look for a new one. Okay? Like the whole message behind religion should be like love and
right,
potlucks and hugs. I also like the idea of like that wine that comes out of the cup and the crackers that you get every week. That's a good religion because you get a little snack and a little sip of some wine when you're at church. But I mean, I don't know because I don't go to that church either. But I'm just saying, if you're going to pick one and you get there and they're like, we should kill people, you should just sneak out the back door. Yeah. Don't be real obvious because they might not like you coming in and then leaving. So there.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on to shout outs. I have a shout out today. I went to Raleigh this morning. I have a shout out for Allie at Arch and Edge in Raleigh. If you want to get your eyebrows done or your hair did, go see Allie at Arch and Edge. They have their shit together. And there's a cupcake bakery right down the street and a La Farm bakery right next door. So I don't know how the people in that salon are not 600 pounds because you walk out and into the next business and you can smell the bakery stuff. And then you walk past this little parking lot and walk in. There's a cupcake. I mean, the cupcake bakery. I went in there and bought a coffee. I got to tell you, it's those like fancy schmancy, like buttercream, like, I don't know, made in heaven, like cupcake. Yeah. Where one cupcake is like 2,000 calories or something. But anyway.
Wow. Yeah.
So thank you, Allie. My eyebrows look amazing. And they're going to be ready for volleyball kickoff this weekend. And I'm going to be looking super fly. Cheryl, you got any shout outs?
Yes, Allie, I have to say they do look amazing. I do have to admit, they are, they do look really good. It looks good, girl. My shout out is to myself for losing one pound.
Yay!
In the last week. Now it could be because the last time I was weighed at the doctor's
Cheryl,
office, I had my shoes and everything in.
We've had this conversation.
I know.
What were you wearing? Because at home you're naked or you're wearing one of those like come and get yum yum, give me some little like numbers that you're always wearing. And those things probably weigh like 10 ounces each.
Right.
But well, do you anyway, like how I call them yum yum, give me some outfits?
So I was very disheartened to see it was only a pound less, and also that the pound could have been due to the fact that I was wearing my shoes and everything at the doctor's office. However, I choose to look at the glass half full today instead of half empty. And I was like, well, at least it didn't go in the other direction. So that's all I got to say about that.
You know what would be hilarious? I probably mentioned this before, but the next time you go to the doctor, put on like 2 parkas, a couple sweaters, your thickest boots, and like 4 pairs of socks and like really thick jeans. And you'll weigh like 7 to 8 pounds more. And then the next time where you yum, give me some dress, and you're going to be, the doctor's going to be like, oh, it looks like you've lost 18 pounds since your last checkup. And you'll be like, that's right. I've been really working.
Barefoot and with no jewelry and no makeup.
That's right.
Oh, God.
Cut all your hair off. Anyway, guys, Cheryl has restricted me on how much I'm allowed to say, but then you notice she really waxed eloquent this week. So I just want you all to know that she is back this week with something that's, I don't know. I'm just ate dinner, so hopefully I won't get sick to my stomach, but it does involve murder. So let's hear it, Cheryl. What do you got for us?
Oh gosh, Joy. There's never a shortage of murder, unfortunately. Today we are going to talk about the murder of Laken Riley. And this was in the media a lot, so you guys have probably heard about it. I love her name, by the way. If there's Lake Bell, I've heard of Lake as a first name. It's Laken. I'd really love to know how they got that name, Laken Riley. It's so pretty. My sources are Wikipedia, people.com, CNN.com, CBSnews.com, Court TV, and ABC11.com. Laken Hope Riley was born on January 10th, 2002 in Marietta, Georgia, to Jason Riley and Allison Phillips. At some point when she was young, her parents divorced and her mother married John Phillips. Laken had 3 siblings. In 2020, she graduated from River Ridge High School in Woodstock, Georgia, where she was a member of the cross-country team. Laken was a nursing student at Augusta University in Athens, Georgia, and had previously attended the University of Georgia, which I will refer to as UGA going forward. She attended UGA as an undergraduate. She had chosen her path at an early age, pursuing nursing to help care for others. But her call went beyond her goal of becoming a nurse. She was a nanny for 2 young children and often found big and small ways to care for others every day. Her younger sister, Lauren Phillips, said Laken would send her daily text messages wishing her a good morning or share funny TikTok and Snapchat videos. On the morning of February 22nd, 2024, which is not long ago, Laken Riley texted and called her mom as she headed out for a run to see whether she had time to chat. Her mother missed her text and call. She called her mother at 9:03 a.m., and by the time her mother called back 20 minutes later, Laken had encountered her killer. After Laken failed to answer the phone, her mother texted her several times, casually at first, but then with increasing concern. At 9:37 a.m., her mother texted, "Call me when you can." Her mother called twice, and when her calls went unanswered, she texted her daughter at 9:58 a.m. "You're making me nervous not answering while you're out running. Are you okay?" She texted again at 11:47 a.m., writing, "Please call me. I'm worried sick about you." She and other family members continued to call Laken. Police went searching for Laken after her friend reported that she had not returned from her morning run. So I was really, really impressed by this, and it warmed my heart and broke my heart about how close she was with her friends that she lived with. They all shared locations, and they were very in tune to each other's schedules, which I think is really important. And they just knew each other's habits, which is another thing that's really important. Later that day, officers discovered Laken's body in a forested area near Lake Herrick on UGA's campus. According to authorities, Laken was unconscious with visible injuries. When emergency medical responders arrived, they pronounced Laken dead on the scene. Laken's smartwatch shows her heart stopped beating at 9:28 a.m. The perpetrator was 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra, a Venezuelan man who had entered the United States illegally on September 2022, crossing the United States southern border with Mexico near El Paso, Texas. He was apprehended by federal authorities after crossing the border. who subsequently released him into the country. Jose initially stayed at the Roosevelt Hotel Migrant Shelter in New York before taking a flight to Georgia. UGA police stated that he lived in an apartment complex about 1 mile from the wooded area where Laken's body was found. Jose Ibarra had been previously arrested by both federal and state officials in multiple jurisdictions. In September 2023, Ibarra was arrested in New York City and charged with acting in a manner to injure a child less than 17 and a motor vehicle license violation. In October 2023, Jose and his brother were arrested by Athens police on theft charges. Both were released after reportedly possessing stolen merchandise from a local Walmart. Jose had a bench warrant issued for his arrest in December 2023 after failing to appear in court in a shoplifting case in Georgia. ICE, which is U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, stated that it had missed an opportunity to detain Jose after an arrest in New York because he was released by New York officials before a detainer could be issued.
So I just want to jump in here really quickly.
Yeah.
It said that he entered the United States illegally in 2022. So my question to you is this. I mean, because he had committed so many crimes, so he's been arrested in New York, he's been arrested by the Athens police on theft, and he has a bench warrant issued for his arrest for failing to appear. My question to you is, like, I was always under the impression, because I have a lot of friends who are undocumented and who are in the United States illegally. And basically it just means that they don't have passports or resident papers and blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, whatever. They're not legal residents. But they are all hardworking and follow the law. You know what I mean? By the, obviously, I get it. They live here undocumented, which means they're obviously, that's a law they're not following, but they're not in jail for stealing stuff, and they're not going to court, and there's no bench warrants out on them. They're not criminals. So I guess I was always under the impression that if you were breaking the law, that you would be detained and that there was some kind of process for either the incarceration of these people or the deportation of these people or some kind of like penalty.
This is the problem, I think.
Well, it is a problem, obviously, in this case. But I will say that, I mean, it's really disheartening to see that he was arrested and charged and then let go, only to continue to commit more crimes.
Right. Yeah. And then the ultimate crime. It's the same question about whether just the illegal, you know, entry into U.S. Just the U.S. citizens, these guys who get who are released after repeat offending and then end up killing people. It's just,
I know.
I have no answer. I just bring the news. I have no answer for it.
All right, carry on.
So, all right. After Laken's death, Jose was questioned by police after a jacket with Laken's hair was found in a dumpster near his apartment. Jose's roommate identified him as the man throwing away the jacket from surveillance footage of the dumpster. And again, we're going to talk about surveillance footage and how there are cameras everywhere. Thank goodness. He is caught on camera everywhere, and he is caught on camera throwing this jacket into the dumpster and then some gloves. Well, you just see him go to the dumpster and then you see him go to some bushes, and after they reviewed this footage, they went to the bushes and they found gloves that he had used, bloody, and they were bloody. So thank goodness that there's cameras everywhere and people are stupid enough to disregard the cameras. So
so he wasn't like a very smart criminal.
Well, a lot of them aren't. You have to, well, I'm glad. Just keep being stupid, people. But there are cameras everywhere. I guess, I don't know. I think this is what's scary. Their urges for people who do stuff like that, they overtake any reasoning. You know, they can't control these
it's
impulses.
True. It's like me and shoes.
Exactly.
I literally just got shoes today in the mail.
If buying shoes over a certain amount was criminal, you would be in trouble.
Okay, but wait, I just have to also add it's the third time I bought these shoes because every time I buy them, they go on sale even more. So I bought them at
Oh gosh.
$110. I bought them at $85 and now they're 40. So I feel like I really, really won the
Wow.
jackpot. Woo! Okay,
Wait,
go
what do
ahead.
you, so you go back and say
I
they're on
return
sale
them.
again
I
and then
return
buy
them
them?
and then I reorder them.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of effort. I
I'm a,
just don't know if I
I'm a
could do it.
goddamn genius.
You are, you are a professional. Oh gosh. Okay. So police questioning Jose noticed his knuckles were red and scratches on his arms. Jose was subsequently arrested on murder charges. On May 8th, 2024, a grand jury in Clark County indicted Jose with 10 charges. 3 charges of felony murder, malice murder, false imprisonment, kidnapping, aggravated assault with intent to rape, hindering a 911 call, concealing the death of another, and peeping Tom. So this poor girl she's not a poor girl because she got away without being harmed physically. Emotionally, I'm sure she's going to be scarred for a while, if not for the rest of her life. But on the security footage, you see Jose just kind of lingering around this apartment complex. And this girl testified she was in the shower and she heard someone knock. So she went to the door and she looked through the peephole, and whoever was there dropped out of view. So that person's no longer there. She goes back, does her thing. She also she would just keep her curtains in her bedroom open because they face like the back and whatever. She just felt like she wanted the sun to come in. Her apartment was pretty dark. So, but there's footage of him just like stalking her apartment and just loitering around there and trying to get in. In fact, she did hear the handle of her apartment door being jiggled. And so she did call 911, and thankfully she was unharmed physically, like I said, but that is so scary. So Jose pleaded not guilty to all charges. Bail was denied. The district attorney was seeking a sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In a court filing, the defense attorney submitted a motion to move the trial to another county due to the media attention surrounding the case, but Judge H. Patrick Haggard denied it. Jose waived his right to a jury trial and opted for a bench trial, which began on November 15th, 2024.
And can I just jump in really quickly?
Yeah.
Does he speak English fluently, or does he have a translator through this entire process?
He has a translator.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because obviously all this detail has to be explained to him. He has to know his rights as far as waiving his right to a jury trial, opting for a bench trial, et cetera, et cetera. Also, he pled not guilty. So he also has to, that's the thing that just kills me. It's like, he did the crime.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. It's like, grow up and grow a pair. Like, you killed somebody, say you're guilty. I can't even.
No,
it's people like this.
He's on camera. I mean, he's not on camera committing the actual crime, but come on, he's on camera doing everything else, and his fingerprints and everything. I mean, I'll get into that, but it's just I guess you roll the dice and take your chances. I don't know, but he did have an interpreter during the trial, and I'm sure through this whole process, obviously. And I've talked about a bench trial before. I don't remember who it was. A bench trial is a trial where a judge acts as the sole fact finder and decides the outcome of a case without a jury. So Jose's lawyers might have felt that he would have been given a fair judgment by a judge alone instead of a jury. I was watching Lawyer and he was just kind of just putting his thoughts out of why he might have chosen a bench trial or been advised to instead of a jury. So we don't know for sure, but my man Pete Trago said possibly the jury, maybe they felt, he and his lawyers felt that he might have been judged a little more harshly because he's an illegal immigrant. You know what I mean? Do you think that would have played in a jury's mind?
In the state of Georgia, absolutely, because I definitely feel like excuse me. I definitely have encountered a lot more anti-Hispanic sentiment in the South than I did in all the years that I lived in other parts of the world. So that's one thing. The other thing is, I also feel that they probably would have judged him more harshly also because he had, and I mean, this is not made up at all. He had a criminal record.
Yeah.
And so even though like I think that there was a lot of balls dropped when it comes to the police, arresting and releasing him or whatever, I don't know how that process works in the different areas where he lives. I'm sure every state has a different rule. It would have probably gone a lot worse.
Yeah.
And that's me admitting that I don't even know what happened because I don't watch the news and I don't know what happened to this.
Okay. Well, you do. You watch different things than I do. Like we have to fill each other in on the.
Yeah, but I don't follow murder cases. I literally, when these pop up in my feed, I scroll past them. I can't watch. I can't watch these things. They're disturbing.
Yeah, they are. I can't. I gravitate towards them. I gravitate towards the disturbing. So he opted for a bench trial, and yet, like I said, Peter Tragos, who I was watching, said that he probably, you feel like a judge would maybe be less biased and really just go by the facts because they are a judge, So Jose also did not take the stand in his own defense. Prosecutors presented evidence that included Jose's DNA under Laken's fingernails and Jose's fingerprint on Laken's phone screen. And this is where I think the charge of hindering a 911 call came in. They described Laken's final moments as she fought for her life, collecting Jose's DNA under her fingernails. Prosecutor Sheila Ross said during her opening statement that Jose had gone out hunting for females that morning in February, and that he killed Laken after a struggle when she refused to be his rape victim. And I think that was a really powerful way for her to phrase that, hunting for females, because he was trying to get in that girl's apartment. And I can only imagine how she felt after she found out that after he couldn't get into her apartment, he killed Laken. Like, can you imagine feels knowing she dodged that bullet? I just want to shout out Sheila Ross, who was the prosecutor in this trial. She is a rock star. She reminded me of Timothy Dean, who I went on and on about, the guy that looked like super Clark Kent in the Quentin murder trial where Leilani Simon was found, his mother was found guilty. This Sheila Ross, her presentation style is perfect. It's not too dramatic. It's not too monotone. And the evidence she put on was so thorough and just, I really feel in all the trials I've watched, it matters how you lay out the information. And if you do have witnesses, the order in which you call them, if you have a jury, because it has to make sense to them. It can't be confusing. It's like watching a movie with too many flashbacks, which, by the way, I watched Wicker Park last night. And if anybody has watched that, I want you to just DM me, even though I don't DM, and explain this movie to me. It was so confusing. Anyway, it was just a bunch of flashbacks. So let's talk about how technology helped in this investigation. Laken wore a smartwatch that she was gifted for Christmas. Investigators could determine, based on the watch's data analyzed by the FBI, that around 9:10 a.m., something happened to make Laken stop dead in her tracks. Around that time, Laken initiated her phone's SOS function and called 911 at, get this, 9:11 a.m. At 9:11 a.m., she calls 911. The call was hung up on Laken's phone. The chilling 911 call was played in court, and you can hear the operator answer, and then you can't hear anything on the caller's end. You do hear something very, very subtle, and then the call is ended. And so that's how they got Jose's fingerprint on her phone. The 911 operator called back twice, but the calls were not answered. Investigators found Laken was on the trail with her killer for about 4 minutes. And then you see 4 minutes later, her smartwatch moved 65 feet into the woods. Laken's encounter with her attacker is described as long and fierce, according to the watch's data. Once her heart stops at 9:28 a.m., there's no more movement from her smartwatch. Isn't that incredible?
That's
to
crazy.
Have this tracked.
If somebody, you know what? First of all, I leave the house without my smartphone all the time. I've also left it at Vinka's a lot of times when I leave for the day, and she'll have to run out with my phone in hand. I have nothing trackable. I've turned off a lot of like the enable tracking stuff on my phone. I don't have a smartwatch. I don't have one of those death strap things to carry it around with me. I don't have a laptop. I don't have an iPad. I don't have an iPad mini. If you think about it, I mean, yeah, I have a smartphone, but I mean, there are plenty of times, sometimes like my kid will be like, mom, 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 mom. And she knows I'm at work, but I'm busy. And so I'm not checking it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think about like this situation where there's all this like data.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why I didn't want a Fitbit. All I wanted to know was how many steps I was making. I didn't want it telling me to get up and move. I didn't want it telling me like I needed to get more exercise. I didn't want it to track what I was eating or anything. I just wanted to know how many freaking steps I was. And then I found out all this other stuff. I was like, I don't want it.
I know I have a love-hate relationship with technology, but there are times where it comes in handy, like
it's
all
not
the
just technology.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Okay. So one of Laken's roommates, Lily Steiner, testified she had seen Laken's iPhone location earlier that morning using the phone's Find My feature. And she says, I checked her location to see where she was, and I saw that she was on a run on a trail that she typically ran. I mean, it's incredible. The location, I used it. I had friends, you and a few other friends, and my sister watch me travel from Arizona to California. There's just, it's just a really useful tool.
Yeah, I had a man once show me his junk when I was out running.
Yeah, well, I want to get into that after we get through some of the facts. I do want to talk about this and what it's like being a woman in this world. But anyway, so thankfully she did share her location with her friends, because it might have taken that much longer if no one had any idea where she was, right? They could have been looking but they knew exactly where to look. That's incredible. Now, they couldn't save her, but they got critical evidence and, caught the man who did this. I just think there's something to be said for sharing your location with people that you trust. Body camera video from responding officer Sergeant Kenneth Maxwell with the UGA Police Department, who discovered Laken's body, was played in court during his testimony. Maxwell described discovering Laken's partially nude remains. It looked more intentional, as if somebody had attempted to either remove her top or maybe had used it to drag her, said Maxwell, who added it took about 21 minutes to locate Riley. The video showed he immediately began performing life-saving measures. And this guy, I'm not sure if I'm confusing it with another story, but believe he was new to this position. So when they play his body worn camera, is his reaction when he sees her is so, ugh. I mean, for that to be part of your job, it's just awful. But anyway, he immediately began performing life-saving measures, and it was really dramatic the way they explained how he radioed for help and how they blow these whistles, I believe, so that they can find you, they know where you are and all this. They went through the whole thing, and it was just so heartbreaking. Georgia Bureau of Investigation crime scene specialist Daniela Stewart described injuries observed on Laken's body, including the left side of her head, linear marks on her torso, and one wider linear mark below her underwear. So they do believe they found a few rocks with blood on it, so they believe he bashed her skull in. Stewart also noted a large spot without leaves at the crime scene where she said she believed a significant disturbance happened. The specialist said while the leaf coverage at the scene was thick, you could see almost like a slight depression in that area that led from the running trail to the area where the ground could be clearly seen. Laken's cell phone was found in the leaves at the crime scene. Stewart testified to finding a print on the device in the area where you would swipe to unlock, as well as reddish stains suspected to be blood. And that's where I said Jose probably hung up the 911 call. She also testified to removing a branch of a bush with blood on it in addition to other evidence. Remember, I mentioned this in the Richard Allen trial where I was incensed that they didn't take the twigs and branches that were on the two victims. They didn't take those. And in this case, I watched that testimony and they removed an entire branch of a bush that had blood on it for evidence, because you don't know. And once you leave the scene and unsecure it, they put the crime scene tape around. But once you let that go, all the evidence is compromised. So you have to get it when you get there. Jose's defense said that evidence against him was circumstantial. However, on November 20th, 2024, Judge Haggard found him guilty of all charges and sentenced him to life in prison without possibility of parole. The district attorney's office, as well as Laken's family, chose not to seek the death penalty. Laken's family, I know her for sure, were very, very religious. Laken's murder drew widespread public interest and international media attention, especially in the United States. Her case was used in a lot of political campaigns. Laken's parents were invited to the State of the Union by Georgia Congressman Mike Collins, but they turned down his invitation. Yeah, you mentioned that in the campaigns.
Yeah,
they used it a lot.
The story was weaponized. Mm-hmm. It was used to vilify and to terrify people to what I believe is, and to make, to use basically like to vilify darker skinned people and make them into like bad people. All of them, all undocumented immigrants are all criminals, rapists, murderers. That's what I feel like it was used for. And I will say that, I'm glad they turned down the invitation to the State of the Union address, because they are, after all, a family in mourning. They lost their child. They're not there as like a publicity stunt.
Correct.
Yep. And if they had shown up, they would have been exactly that.
Andrea Cavalier, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, from The Independent, discussed the dangers and threats that women face when they run solo. Using the murders of Laken Riley, Molly Tibbetts, you had mentioned this case. You said you saw this one. You don't usually, follow murders, but didn't you say you followed this one? Molly Tibbetts, a 20-year-old Iowa University student who was murdered by an illegal immigrant while she was jogging in 2018. And also Karen Vetrano, a 30-year-old American woman who was murdered while running in a neighborhood of Queens, New York City, as examples. So I want to interject here. If you are a runner, or even if you're out walking or wherever, especially ladies, but men, you can be attacked too. You can be mugged or whatever. But it makes me so nervous when I see women running or walking with headphones on or 2 earbuds in. you need to be aware of your surroundings. That is number one.
There's a lady on like YouTube or something. I don't know what platform it is, but she goes running at like 3:30 in the morning or some shit like that. And she always has like she walks you through it. She'll say like one earbud for security, tagging my location so that people know where I am, headphones so that there's light, and she set a track. But it's 3:30 in the morning. And she's like, I have to go at this time because it's the only time during the day that I can go while my family's sleeping. And I'm like, I'm sorry, girl.
Gosh.
Buy a treadmill.
Yeah. But I got to give her props. I really do. The fact that she is determined to do this thing that she wants to do for herself and does it at the only hour she has because she's taking care of a family. And it's kind of outrageous to be jogging at 3:30 in the morning. However, she is taking every precaution she can. At least she doesn't go out there at 3. It's really a shame that she can't just go out whenever you want. You can't just go out whenever you want with headphones on both ear, the earbuds in both ears, blasting music, wearing whatever you want. It's just not the way it works. And so I can say from personal experience, I'm not going to get into detail, but I was in a dicey situation, and it was the middle of the afternoon on a sunny day in Southern California on a busy street. I was wearing baggy sweats, and I did not have anything over in my ears because this was in the 80s and I was carrying a little radio, and I was in a dicey situation. And I was
carrying a boombox on your shoulder.
Exactly. One of those huge boom boxes. And I froze, but my flight and fight kicked in, and I fought to flee. So anyway, I do speak from experience, and it does not matter what time of day, if the sun is out or not, you have to take as many precautions as you can, still live your life. But the earbuds in both ears is something I completely advise against. It makes me nervous when I see women. You cannot hear anyone come up on you. And the first step in self-defense is to be aware of your surroundings. That's all I have to say about that.
Safety first.
Yes. On March 7, 2024, the House of Representatives passed the Laken Riley Act. The Laken Riley Act would mandate federal detention of illegal immigrants who are arrested for burglary or theft, and would allow states to file suit against the federal government for failing to enforce immigration laws. So this is what you were asking about earlier. So they did pass this bill after what happened to her, because like you said, he had these violations and all of that, and he was just let go. So this would, I think, prevent that. On March 7, 2024, they passed the Laken Riley Act, but the bill stalled amid opposition in the Democratic-controlled Senate in the 118th Congress. However, on January 7, 2025, yes, you look at your calendar, it was only a couple of weeks ago, the Laken Riley Act again passed the House of Representatives. Mm-hmm. Laken Riley's funeral was held on March 1st, 2024 at the Woodstock City Church. She was buried at Enon Cemetery. I hope I'm saying that right. A memorial was made for Laken at Lake Herrick, where her body was found. Her family said they plan to establish a foundation in her honor. Her stepfather said, "She will be missed every day, but we promise to honor her life moving forward in a big way." Laken's family started an online fund to raise money for the foundation called the Laken Hope Riley Foundation. So if you want to check that out, it's Laken Hope Riley Foundation. And this is from her obituary. Laken was devoted to serving the Lord. She was always involved with church. Her love for spreading God's word led her to attend mission trips to the church. Her love for the Lord was exemplified in every aspect of her life. And I want to include this because, Joy, I was bawling when I heard this. In Laken's honor, I want to read this entire journal entry. So her stepfather, John Phillips, made a statement at the sentencing hearing for Jose. And he said her life was abundantly and exceptionally full of promise. He was choking up during his testimony, which was live streamed on court TV. At the sentencing hearing, he gave a victim's impact statement and read an entry from Laken's journal dated only 2 months before her murder. And it's titled, "A Letter to My Future Husband." To my future husband, as silly as I feel for writing this, my old small group leader once recommended it, so here I am. To my future husband, I want you to know that I'm thinking about you. I'm working every day to become the best wife I can be by working through my current relationships to best prepare me for ours and our kids one day. I'm focusing on God and what he defines as a faithful Christian life, and so I can best embody those characteristics. I pray that you know that it is with my full faith and trust in God that I know this relationship has been handcrafted by him. I pray that we continue to glorify the Lord, prioritize him in every aspect of our lives, and raise our family, our future family, to be God-fearing Christians as well. I pray God is the center of our relationship as it is a gift from him. I thank him for you before I even know you. I can't wait to love you in the best way I know how for the rest of our lives. I pray you know and feel the importance of my love and hopes for our relationship. No matter what challenges we face, I pray that our trust in God and love for one another overrules the obstacle. May our relationship last forever. Your future wife, Laken. When her stepfather read this in court, I was bawling for her to have written this letter and then be killed 2 months later. So Joy, you know that I am the dummy between us. Like, you had to correct me about the sexual preference. Listen, you guys. I apologize if I said that already. I apologize. I don't always say the right terms. Consider me the Bobby Lee of bad friends. Bobby Lee says whatever comes out of his head, and Andrew has to correct him. So you are the Andrew to my Bobby Lee. Okay, so I asked Joy, the undocumented versus the illegal and all of that, I'm not here to educate you on it, but I did look up some things because I'm thinking, if he's an illegal immigrant, how does he get representation, right? You would think to have representation in the United States, you have to be a citizen, but that is not true according to what I found. Let's first go, what's the difference between illegal and undocumented? Undocumented refers to a person's immigration status, while illegal generally refers to actions that violate laws. The two terms can overlap, but they are not always the same. So here's some more details. Undocumented is a person is undocumented if they lack the legal permissions to live in a country. This could be because they entered the country without inspection, stayed past their visa expiration, or violated the terms of their admission. Illegal is generally used to describe actions that violate laws. The Associated Press Style Book recommends using illegal to describe an action such as entering or living in a country illegally, rather than using it to describe a person. Some say that the term illegal is dehumanizing and should be avoided. They recommend using terms like undocumented migrant, or irregular migrant. That sounds horrible. Irregular migrant. So having read that, an undocumented immigrant. Okay, so now you're using the two together. Whatever. I'm so confused by this whole thing. But they can obtain legal criminal counsel in a number of ways, basically the same as a U.S. citizen, either a public defender, which the U.S. government appoints, or a private attorney, they can afford it, or a court-appointed attorney. So the Sixth Amendment of the Constitution guarantees the right to counsel in criminal proceedings, which applies to undocumented immigrants. In deportation proceedings, the government is not required to provide free legal counsel to undocumented immigrants. So they have right to counsel in a criminal proceeding, but in deportation proceedings, government is not required to provide legal counsel.
They come to the border because they know that if they come across the border, they turn themselves in to one of these detention centers, which is basically a jail, that they will then be provided legal counsel so that they can state their case and petition either political asylum or some kind of hardship asylum, like we're fleeing, gangs, we're fleeing drug lords, we're fleeing cartels, and then each case has to be adjudicated. Here's the thing. Maybe let's say that there's 20 of these prisons or jails. Let's say there's 2,000 people in each one. There is a legal precedent that has to be followed. And so a lot of times, once all their paperwork has been determined, blah, 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 they release them out into basically the United States, because then they have to come back for their court case. Sometimes they don't. And then a bench warrant is put out for them because they skipped their date, because they have to work to make money while they're here. You know what I mean? You can't just camp out next to the jail and hope. And then the other thing is, we don't have, because of the way our immigration system is set up, and because it's never been overhauled by a president in like donkey's years, we don't have an easy way for these people. Like, remember, we have to have state appointed attorneys. We have to have judges. We have to have prison guards. We have to have police officers. I mean, you think about, we have to have translators. Cheryl, it is so immense. And because this system hasn't been overhauled by anybody in donkey's years, it's not like it's getting any better. And yeah, so every president that comes in, like, they'll bring up an immigration overhaul and it'll fall apart, because we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of pages of like changes to laws and changes to rules, but one side doesn't like this and the other side doesn't like that, and we're going to dot this I and cross this T, and is ridiculous. And in the meantime, there's all these human beings that are impacted and left in limbo. Think about like, for example, we have DACA recipients and dreamers that came over as children under a certain age at no fault of their own, but they came with their parents or with smugglers or with coyotes, so which are paid smugglers. They were children. Some of them were babies. They are now in limbo because they're not being given citizenship, but they're also not being deported. But if they were deported, they're not really Mexicans or Central or South Americans, because they've lived their whole lives here. They've gone to school here. They've learned the language. A lot of them don't even speak Spanish. So imagine deporting 100,000 people or 500,000 people, or however many people there are, who came over when they were one, at no fault of their own, because their parents brought them over, or smugglers brought them over, their aunts and uncles brought them over. Now we're going to send them to a country where they don't know anyone, they don't know the language, they probably don't have a job over there, right? Or a place to live. And the vast majority of these people are hardworking people who are paying taxes to our government and who are putting one foot in front of the other and trying to make their lives better for their children and their grandchildren and their aunts and their cousins and their grandparents and their uncles and whatever. This is a horrible, horrible crime that happened. And this poor girl, and he fell through all these loopholes, with regards to not being arrested or deported because of all of his crimes. But I will say that, I know lots and lots of people who fall into this undocumented migrant or undocumented immigrant status,
that are law-abiding,
tax-paying people that are not extended any benefits. They didn't get stimulus. They don't get Social Security. They don't get anything, but yet they're paying a lot of taxes into our government coffers. So it is a completely shattered and fractured system. It needs someone, just like, how Obama took and created the Affordable Care Act and provided health insurance for millions of people in this country that didn't have health insurance. Say what you will about it, and I'm sure it's not without its problems. There's got to be someone out there who wants to take on immigration and rehaul it. So stuff like this doesn't happen ever again.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that need to be reheld in this country. A lot of things. And also, I just want to say, I did not choose to talk about this case to focus or fan any flames of, I don't want to instigate any negative feelings towards people that are undocumented and are living, like you said, law-abiding, productive lives here, paying taxes. I don't want, that was not my purpose of this. It was really to focus. It was the friends and family being tuned in to each other and where they are. And I wanted to talk about, and I am in no way blaming the victim. I'm just putting out a PSA.
And also technology, and what an amazing role technology played in this case.
Yes. And also just a word, just a cautionary word to women and men, mostly women, just be aware of your surroundings. That's all. I'm not blaming. I don't even know. She was wearing earbuds, but I don't know if she was wearing both of them.
If a man shows you his junk while you're out running, you're not supposed to scream and run away. You're supposed to stop and laugh and point and say, "That's so tiny. I don't know what that is. Is it a mouse? Is it a tiny flea?"
Okay. I hope I never have to quote those words in any situation.
Well, you've got it from me that's what you do if you're out exercising. And of course, I would never be out exercising at 3:30 in the morning anymore because one, I'm sound asleep at that time. But, Cheryl, if you ever find yourself out at 3:30 and somebody exposed themselves to you, now you know what to do.
If I'm ever out at 3:30, call the police, Joy.
I don't know how I would do that since I've left my cell phone at work. Well, I have to tell you guys, first of all, this one was a doozy. Cheryl spends a lot of time working on these, and I'm always so impressed by how they come together, all the work she does on them, just all the information that she packs into them. Because for those of you who've been listening to us for a while, we went from sometimes 2-hour episodes. We pared it down because, we gotta keep the ball rolling. But this was a horrible, horrible, horrible crime. But you know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
That is a crime. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. And don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch managed by Cheryl Yamaguchi. Podcast editing, advertising, and social media managed by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezic. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible.com, Amazon Music, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, or you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.